They all wondered what it was, but were very hesitant to do anything about it. Very carefully, the boys walked toward the big black book. As they got closer to it, they could see that the pink piece of paper had some words on it. Jim, Ben, and Big Ed circled around the big black book, bent down close, and looked at the corner of pink paper that was sticking out of the big black book.
Can you read it?
I think so, but all that I can read is the name of our town. I'm sure there was more to read on the inside.
Do you think Pastor Sullivan would mind if we opened his book and looked at the pink piece of paper?
I don't know, but we better pick up the book or the snow will make all the pages stick together.
So very slowly and with extreme caution, Jim bent down and reached for the big black book. But just as he was about to grab hold of it, a snowball hit him right in the side of the head. Whack!
Ow! Who did that?
Jim forgot about the big black book and stood up quickly to see who had thrown the snowball. They didn't have to wait long to find out. Just across the street stood one of their classmates, Paul Peterson. He was the meanest boy in their class. He just seemed to pick on everyone. But before they could say anything to him, Paul had thrown another snowball at the boys, and it hit Big Ed right on the belly. The boys could hear Paul Peterson laughing at them from across the street. It was more than they could take. All three of the boys started making snowballs as fast as they could to throw back at Paul Peterson. But he already had a pile of them made, and it was hard to dodge snowballs and make them at the same time. Eventually, they were forced to retreat behind the mulberry tree next to Jim's house.
What are we going to do now, Jim? We can't hide here forever, and we still have to get the big black book out of the snow.
Yeah, and I want to take a look at that pink piece of paper.
The boys always seemed to look to Jim for leadership. He did not let them down.
Okay, boys, I've got a plan.
Jim drew a map of the front yard in the snow under the mulberry tree.
Big Ed, you and Ben distract Paul's attention while I... Duck!
Everyone dove into the snow as a snowball flew over their heads.
Okay, you guys just distract Paul while I run around the other side of the house and make a run for the book. I'll meet you on the back porch.
The boys shook hands and headed in separate directions. Ben and Big Ed started launching snowballs into the air to the other side of the street. But Paul was nowhere to be seen. Where had he gone? The boys slowly crawled through the snow toward the front yard. With a snowball in each hand, they were ready for anything. But nothing happened. Paul wasn't across the street anymore. They finally stood up and walked through the snow to the sidewalk. Jim was already there. He had circled around the other side of the house to get the big black book. He too was standing, but a strange expression was on his face.
What's wrong?
Jim paused for a moment before replying.
It's gone. The big black book is gone.
It seemed that Paul Peterson had gotten them again. He was always bothering the boys at school, but this was different. Did he take the big black book? Who did he think he was? And why did he take it anyway? It just didn't make sense. The boys looked across the street but didn't see anything. Then they decided to walk down the street to look for clues. At first they didn't see anything. It seemed that there wasn't anybody out that afternoon. But then they saw something pink sticking out of the snow. It was the pink piece of paper. The boys ran as fast as they could and watched as Yooper Jim picked up the pink piece of paper.
Well, what do you know about that?
The paper was gray colored on the top and pink on the bottom. At the top, next to a tall white cross, it said, God's Simple Plan of Salvation. Underneath that, it gave the name of Pastor Sullivan's church and the address and phone number.
What's on the inside of it?
Yooper Jim opened the pink piece of paper and read it aloud to Ben and Big Ed. The paper told them what the Bible says about Jesus. It said that all people have sinned and deserve to be punished in hell for their sins. But it also told them about God's wonderful love. It said that God commends his love toward us, and that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. At the end of the paper, they were invited to believe Jesus, be forgiven by God, and saved from hell. When Yooper Jim had finished reading the pink piece of paper, all three boys were silent. Finally, Ben broke the silence.
Wow! I've never heard that before. I wonder if that was the secret Pastor Sullivan was going to tell us.
Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's go to the hospital and ask him.
After each boy had asked his mother's permission, they jumped onto their bikes and headed toward the hospital. In order to save time, they headed for Millie Hill. Although it was very cold outside, the scenery on top of the hill was beautiful. If you had been there, you might have seen a deer or two run across the road and into the bushes. As the boys raced toward the hospital, you could hear their tires crunching through the ice. The boys laughed as they swerved in and out of the snow. As they crossed over the top of the hill, Big Ed began to lag behind.
Hey, you guys!
What do you want, Slowpoke? You're gonna be the last one there.
Big Ed pedaled a little bit faster, but called out again.
I was just wondering, how are we gonna stop when we get to the bottom of the hill?
The bottom of the hill? The road they were now on was very steep and covered with ice and snow. There was a stop sign at the end of the hill and a very busy 4-lane highway. How would they stop? Could they? Jim slammed on his brakes, but his bike kept sliding down the hill. Ben had done no better. His bike was sliding sideways down the hill. The boys and their bikes slid faster and faster toward the busy intersection. All hope was gone. There was no way that they could stop for the stop sign at the end of the street. Halfway down, the boys closed their eyes and screamed. Ah! But a noise from the bottom of the hill caught their attention. Ben and Jim opened their eyes only to see a small pizza delivery car pulling onto the same road they were sliding down.
Oh no! We're gonna get run over by a pizza car!
The car swerved to miss the boys, but it was too late. Smash!
Oh! Ugh! Watch out!
Before the boys could turn around, Big Ed landed on top of both of them. Crash!
Oh, I think I'm dead.
The door of the pizza delivery car opened slowly, and a huge man got out of the car. The man seemed to be almost 7 feet tall and must have weighed close to 300 pounds. His shadow blocked out the light of the sun. All 3 boys stared at the man as he walked over to their crumpled bicycles. He looked at the dent in his car door, looked at the boys, and said, "You'll have to come back next time to find out."